We're good. Good evening. Welcome to tonight's council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First thing I'm going to ask for is agenda changes.
Mr. Mayor, no addition or deletion, but we are going to ask that the executive session be moved to after the report section on the agenda tonight.
Okay, council, you're all good with that, right? All right, now I'm going to ask for, we're going to open up for public forum. If there's anybody here wishing to address the council, please come forward, give your name, address, and let us know why you're here.
You don't have to turn that on. Good evening, my name's Amy Beck. I live at 920 West 4th Street. I would like to say a few words on behalf of the local Holdeman Mennonite community. The Holdemans are an integral part of Halstead and Harvey County. They live here, they shop here, they own businesses here. They are our neighbors and our friends. They are some of the first to help in times of need, whether it's to feed a struggling family, clear trees after a storm, or anything else that needs to be done. They don't do it for the recognition, but because they care, and it's a way for them to show appreciation for being able to live their mostly quiet lifestyle. Their beliefs and their culture do not allow them to vote at the ballot box or to be involved in politics. This does not mean that they do not follow local issues. They are well aware of the potential impacts that the proposed BES may have on the community and the environment. To them, this is more than politics. This is the welfare of their chosen hometown in a very real and personal way. This isn't about separation of church and state. This is about common sense. Grace Mennonite Church and Countryside Christian School are less than a mile west of the proposed site. Many of the older folks in their community do not use social media, which has become the primary way to spread information in times of crisis. When there is an emergency that necessitates evacuation, it will be difficult to locate all of the members of this community and ensure that they are safe in a timely fashion. I'm asking you to keep this community in mind throughout the process. In the event that BES is approved, excuse me, please think about what Halstead would look like without this community, because the ballot box is not the only way to make their voices be heard. I was asked to read that by members of the community. Now, speaking as myself, and Mr. Jantz, I want to address this one to you. This is just a general question, procedure type thing. Generally speaking, when there is an issue that the council votes upon and they approve or reject, deny, does the mayor have the ability to veto that vote?
There are instances where the mayor does have veto powers, and it would depend on the circumstances.
Okay. I was asked to ask that because many people in the community right now are concerned that should a decision be made, we have been under the understanding that the mayor can veto the decision that the council makes.
Not in certain circumstances. As I said, there are limited instances. There is the potential for veto by a mayor in a municipal setting in Kansas.
Okay. Thank you.
That veto could also be overridden by a unanimous vote from the council.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anybody else for public forum? Name and address, please.
Renee Fensky at 219 West 2nd Street. Good evening, Mayor Travis and council members. I'm Renee, a very concerned, new to Halstead resident. I am so thankful to have the opportunity to speak on behalf of myself and other community members. I am here to speak about our energy future for Halstead. As our entire country continues to transition towards cleaner energy sources, solar, wind, and other renewables, we face critical challenges for the safety of this community specifically, involving energy storage. Examples: the Equus bed, the pollution that could be caused there. A fire's aftermath. There's nothing they can do with the fire once it starts. They just have to monitor it. Energy storage can have a benefit. We can allow the capture of excess power during periods of low demand and deploy it when it's most needed. This can reduce strain on the grid, preventing blackouts, and ultimately saving money. Mayor Travis, please hear me when I say I am very opposed to an outside company profiting from our small town. You have made it very clear you are supportive of the involvement of this project and the funds that Halstead would receive, not the jobs that it could potentially be created to integrate storage for Halstead. You quoted Schneider Electric. However, their $700 million project created jobs for that community, and that's from the Vice President, Jay Hull of Schneider Electric.
Yeah, they're building best systems.
Please don't
in
interrupt
Texas.
my 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll speak when you're done.
I have spoken to previous mayors of small Kansas towns, similar to Halstead, and the current mayor of Claflin, Kansas. All have the same priority. What are the citizens concerned with? Stop fighting and stop name-calling. Mayor Travis and council members, I do not envy your job. However, I have a suggestion to maybe hear your citizens. Have an adult, calm conversation. Everyone is concerned with Halstead. Everybody wants what's best for Halstead. At the end of your day, that's what the majority of us all want. I'm not against Mayor Travis or any council members. I'm a citizen, I'm a resident. I care about Halstead too. I will end with a wonderful quote. Let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encourage one another, and all the more as you see in the day approaching. Thank you.
Thanks. First of all, I want to make it very clear, I've never once said I'm 100% in favor of this project. What I am in favor of is letting this project run through the process that we have set up in this city to properly vet the project. By the planning and zoning saying, and it's not true yet because they haven't brought forward any regulations, but they've said they will hold this project to the special use permit application process. And I believe that is the smartest thing they could do. That process will kick off 2 engineering studies, a site-specific hazard risk analysis and an environmental impact study. And all I have ever asked for is for this group that's opposed to this is to let those 2 studies happen, and then we can sit down and have an intellectual conversation about the results of that. I had a conversation this afternoon with a member of your group, Bree Burke. We had a very good conversation because she was willing to listen to my side and I was willing to listen to her side. I don't want to fight with my constituents in town. I am simply fighting to keep this project on the track that it's supposed to be on and get through our process. That's where I'm at. So if anybody else would like to address the council now, I'll let you speak.
Thank you.
Roger Keating, 20 Cedar Drive. Mayor and council, I don't envy you guys. I've been chairman of boards. I've been on a number of boards. When things like this get heated and excited, I know it's long nights and a lot of stress, so you have my sympathy. I want to start with a basic question. I'm curious, who approached who? Concurrent approached the city or the city approached them?
Concurrent actually approached Harvey County EDC, which is Harvey County Economic Development. Ethan and I are both part of that committee. And then the director for Harvey County EDC reached out to us about the opportunity. That's how it got started.
Okay. So then the next question is, what do we really know about Concurrent? What I have found is that they're a company that's been in existence since 2022, so they're only a few years old. They have, from what I can see, 7 employees, which the council has years as large as that company. And when you look at their website, they have a number of sites that they've been working on, but the only one they talk about is Halstead. So I just have to assume that we are further along than all of the other projects that they're claiming.
That's not quite true. They do have 2 projects currently that are permitted that they'll be doing, but due to NDAs, I can't tell you where those projects are.
Okay, but they've still not, and they claimed at the last meeting that they were at, that they were discussing that they've not actually built
They're-
any of these, even though that's
The
what
way
they
I
claim as a company.
The way I understand Concurrent, their top 2 board members came from other organizations that did the same thing. So it's much like if you work for this company for 20 years, you decide to go out on your own. That's kind of what has happened with Concurrent. I haven't completely looked into their background yet because quite frankly, we're just not there yet in the process to worry about it.
All right, I'm worried about it.
I understand, and it will be looked at before this will ever get approved.
So it's always important to look at, especially when you've got a company that small, who owns them. And so in researching that, Caltech LLC is who owns them, and they went bankrupt in May of 2023.
What was the name of that company again?
Caltech,
Caltech?
these are all red flags in my book.
CAL, Caltech?
QUAL.
Okay.
No, that's great, Roger. I'll look into that.
So again, another red flag. We know that they haven't built any. Red flag. So then who will build this if they have a staff of 7? And when you look at their staff, none of them are builders. At best, you could say they've got a program manager. So who is physically going to be building this? And how experienced are they? Because this isn't something where you just go and hire some general electricians to do. This is industrial scale batteries that have a notoriously bad reputation and have to be held extremely serious. So red flag, right? They've also said that once they're done, they're going to sell it and somebody else is going to maintain it. Do we know who that is? This is, to me, a very bizarre business plan. If you're a .com, you might go out and build your company, you build it up and then sell it. That's how you make the extra big dough. But when you're a company like this, it's like opening your store, having the ribbon cutting ceremony, and then putting a for sale sign in the window. It seems very bizarre. And to me, the reason that a company would be structured like this is to cover their assets. They're doing this in a way that if there's a problem, because we've seen there's a number of these best situations where the fire happens during the build process, it just seems to me like this is a way to cover their tails. You have this little company, fire happens, it dissolves, it's gone. They're not associated with whoever's maintaining and building. It's just, to me, another red flag. It really seems bizarre. They've also said that there's not going to be anybody here that actually runs it or maintains it. It's going to be monitored. To me, that is a huge red flag. If the monitor says, all right, something's going wrong, who are they calling? Who's going to fix this? Is it coming out of Texas? Is it a day later somebody comes and addresses it? I just think again, when you have these type of facilities, having something that's just simply monitored is just, these red flags aren't like little desk flags. These aren't even like flags on your house. These are those giant flags that they put out in the football fields. Huge red flags. So I'm curious who is liable if that example that I gave, if they suddenly poof, dissolve, gone, something happens, they don't even file bankruptcy. They just like close shop and leave. because we've seen what's happened before when people leave or go bankrupt. It tends to be the city who's ultimately responsible. Is that, I mean, am I speaking out of line with that? Isn't that ultimately who?
Currently, to
guys?
address that specific question, and again, because regulations and all that have not been completed yet, we are requiring a decommissioning bond on the front end of this project. So the capital to dismantle that plant back down to dirt will be there before it's ever approved.
To dismantle it.
Dismantle it,
But-
haul it
but-
off.
All of the other issues that happened that caused the dismantling, who's liable for that? Especially if they disappear, you've got some money that's held in bond, but what about all the rest of the problems? When the lawsuits come,
First of all, I don't, and let me back up, because I want to address that first question. They are a developer. At the end of the day, developers generally don't know every detail to their projects. They know how to put projects together. So they're gonna hire an engineering firm to do that, to engineer the project. Then they're gonna hire a contractor to put this thing in. And then they're gonna choose which equipment they use, which manufacturer, which vendor's equipment they're gonna use. To me, those three things alone are probably more important than the actual developer. And I've worked with companies in my day job all across the US doing stuff like this. For instance, most of you are probably familiar with ICM down in Colwich. They've designed and built ethanol plants all over the country, but they don't own them. They build them and then they sell them. That's pretty typical for industrial development. From what I understand, Evergy is very interested in these projects. Anybody that's managing generation on these grids that are in different locations, and for us, it's Southwest Power Pool. But the generators on that pool are very interested in this because it's a huge benefit to the grid. And more than likely, they'll be the ones that purchase it because they don't have the resources to do the initial development. That's why they're relying on the private sector to do the original development. And the growth continues in the industry. Even with the things that have happened with Moss Landing, the growth continues to accelerate. At the end of the day, do I think that Concurrent is gonna be for sure the final developer on a potential project for us? Maybe they won't be. But we need those regulations in place. One, so if somebody decides to put a home base in, we've got regulations to cover that. But even tier two for commercial properties, which I don't know that we'd have a commercial property like a hospital or something that would be utilized now. But then tier three covers your grid scale stuff. We need to have those regulations in place, so if a developer does come forward, because that parcel that we're looking at out there is the perfect storm for this application. So even if we decide we don't want to do a deal with Concurrent, it could be attractive to other developers, maybe a developer with a better track record. I don't know. I don't know what that picture looks like when we get to that point. So there's still a lot of unanswered questions, and I think you've brought up some great points, and I'll allow you to continue, but I just wanted to bring that up.
yeah. Well, I guess what bothers me most is that this is just not only all the red flags, but it's a whole bunch of firsts. We're first in Kansas, we're first with Concurrent, it's like, should the school change the mascot from the dragons to the guinea pigs? I mean, it just feels like we are the lab rats for this type of facility here in Kansas. I'm not opposed to these type of things, but it just seems like, number one, they're way better out in western Kansas. I grew up out there. You can drive for 30 miles and not hit a house. There's plenty of space out there to do something like this. To do it in Harvey County, literally in our town, just to duck the Harvey County ban seems just crazy to me.
It's not to duck the Harvey County ban, it's because we have that substation there with the capability. That's
There's
what makes
lots
that
of
attractive.
substations
There
in
is.
Kansas.
But
Lots.
it also has to do with the grid. And Southwest Power Pool is looking at those strategic locations where to put these to help the grid. And right now, there's 37 active connection requests with Southwest Power Pool, Halstead's included. 30 of those are standalone BESS units, which is what Halstead's would be as a standalone. 7 of them are tied to wind farm or solar farms, and 1's tied to a wind farm. I found it interesting that only 1 was tied to a wind farm. This is something we're going to start seeing all across the country. We're not the first unit in Kansas. The first unit in Kansas was in Minneapolis as part of the Kansas Power Pool, and it's right in the city of Minneapolis connected to their municipal power plant. The second units are 2 units that are installed down at the Sedgwick County Zoo. They're quite a bit smaller, but they put all that solar energy on the new facade going into the zoo.
So they're class 2s.
I think they're big enough to be class 3. I think they're half a megawatt apiece. They're over the kilowatt range, but I can verify that.
With the risks involved, this is the type of thing that I don't think being an early adopter wins us a race. We don't get a prize for being out there and getting it. And if the prize is the cash they're flashing in front of our face, and that's the only green flag is the money, I think we really need to analyze the risks.
We are analyzing the risks, and regardless of what people think, what people say, again, I go back to there's 2 studies that have to be done by that special use permit process. Those are gonna answer the majority of the questions that are floating around out there, and I just wanna get through those studies and see where we're at.
Okay. I just plead with you guys, kill this as soon as you can. This is the type of thing that it is ripping the community apart. It's more risk than I think we need or want. And the payout, we've had these ventures before, and it's like somehow Halstead seems to be on the losing end of this when you look at the other towns around us. And I don't want us to be burned literally off the map. Thank you for your time.
Well, the other side to that, Roger, is what I see, if we don't give this developer the opportunity to at least go through our process and have us fully vet it and then make a decision, well, you're gonna discourage any other developer that could potentially be looking at coming to Halstead to do something. And that bothers me. Anybody else wanna address the council?
Apologize, I didn't have these printed out. My daughter's sick, so if we could just pass them around. The
Name-
first,
Name and address for the
sorry,
record.
my name is Cole Silhan, 1203 Redbud Court. The first I'm passing around is a post from Mayor Dennis Travis on his personal page. It was a post in regards to after our planning and zoning meeting. The next I'm passing around, again, I apologize, my daughter's sick, are 3 links that I had previously posted on Mayor Dennis Travis' government official Facebook page. Please note www.controlglobal.com. The third is evidence of what Mayor Dennis Travis wanted proof of. Show me the proof. There it is. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I am standing here tonight because I love this town. I love the people, the values, the sense of community. We've always had neighbors helping neighbors. Whether you're lifelong residents, newcomers, or part of our strong and respected Mennonite families who helped build Halstead from the very beginning. But lately, a sense of community has been fraying. A big reason is how the mayor has handled the battery energy storage system project and how he's treated the very people he swore to serve. A couple months back, Mayor Dennis Travis held a public meeting with Concurrent about bringing a bus here. Many of us good, hardworking people have voiced concerns and simply placed peaceful yard signs, attending meetings, and asked questions. Instead of listening, the mayor said he was embarrassed and ashamed of us. He promised to stay neutral, but never did. On his government official Facebook page, he posted only promotional material, deleted critical comments, and blocked citizens. He even labeled our elders, veterans, and Mennonite neighbors as an unhinged mob, simply for speaking up and showing opposition. When asked for an apology multiple times, he refused. He interrupted citizens, got visibly angry. Mayor also deleted his official Facebook page, shifting to a private one where there can be no critical voice or opposition shown. Meanwhile, he's been campaigning for Concurrent and handing out Power Up Halstead signs. He has 3 in his yard supplied by Concurrent. He urges neighbors to display them. He even attends public places in Halstead where he speaks about the BEST project and urges people to side with him. He turns away from anyone who says otherwise. Even the Power Up Halstead website carries a privacy notice warning that your data may be collected and used in future litigation against you. Many of us have received spoofed calls from KAOH Media, working with Concurrent to gather information so Concurrent can try to sway our opinions. I'm a veteran with PTSD and anxiety. Because of this, I now lock my doors, watch my children more closely than ever before, and wonder if I can safely speak at public meetings without being silenced or slandered by my own mayor. This is not leadership. This is not democracy. The Government Code of Ethics and the Kansas Open Meetings Act exist to protect towns like ours from exactly this abuse of power. Citizens should never live in fear of their elected officials or be called names for exercising their constitutional rights. Tonight, I respectfully and urgently ask this council to, 1, investigate the mayor's repeated violations of ethics and open meeting laws. 2, censor Mayor Dennis Travis for his pattern of censorship, intimidation, and bias. And 3, consider removal of the mayor from office if found to have willfully abused his position and violated his duty to represent all citizens impartially. Halstead deserves better than this division and fear. Mennonites, farmers, veterans, moms, dads, business owners, and children, we are this town. It said, we are Halstead. We ask only for honesty, fairness, and respect. Please restore our trust in local government. Please show that in Halstead, every voice matters. By taking action, you are simply restoring the trust back in this community, in which has been longed for by many, many citizens. Thank you for listening, and thank you for standing up for Halstead.
Thank you for being here in light of your daughter's illness. Sorry that she's sick.
Thank you.
Did everybody get a chance to look at the?
Anybody else like to weigh in? Anybody else want to speak to the council? Name and address, please.
My name is Brianna Burke. I really would rather not state my address, but I'm happy to
That's
give it
fine.
to you afterwards. I'm actually a new resident. I'm sorry for being late. I have children and I work in Wichita.
I may have mentioned your name earlier, that you and I had a
Yeah,
conversation this
absolutely.
evening.
Yes, we did. I actually just moved here to Halstead in, I believe it was September. And I'm actually a pro-green resident. I am pro-renewable energy, which I think is a little bit of an interesting standpoint, because if I had seen the best signs whenever I came to look at houses, I never would have moved here. I researched many different towns. I looked at Clearwater. We went to Winfield. We went to Cheney. I'm from Andale, so we looked out in Andale, and public speaking is not my forte, so I apologize if I'm a little bit shaky. But I really pride myself on doing research and looking into every aspect because I care very deeply about community. I teach in Wichita. I work for WSU Tech. And I just really care about uplifting the community that I'm in because we're all here together, right? So actually, if I had seen the best signs whenever I was looking for somewhere to live, I probably never would have chosen here because although I am pro-green energy, I'm very aware of the fact that they come with a litany of different risks. And regardless of your standpoint politically, whether you're Republican or Democrat, there has been a lot of pro-industrial movements within legislation lately that show that there may be signs of a lot of leniency be given to a lot of things that could potentially affect our environment. And if this was proposed 4 miles outside of town, if there was no Equisbed, if they were paying us a little bit more, considering with the Halstead mill levy, they're avoiding somewhere probably estimated around 6 million plus in property taxes a year. Forgive me if that's not a completely accurate estimate, but through looking and verifying through multiple sources of AI providing all the mill levy and tax information, as well as the facility size and the 200 million build budget, that was what was estimated to be paid in taxes. So if we could get a little bit of wiggle room there, I could probably be very easily convinced, considering I am pro-green energy, but we are stewards of this land. And I heard someone say that, forgive me if it's not 100% as I saw it, but someone said that the risk that had been quoted was that we risk contaminating 2 miles of Equisbed, with the average volume density of the Equisbed around the Halstead in a 2 mile square radius that actually equals to be about 9 billion gallons of water, roughly, give or take. Once again, if my estimates aren't correct, I'm a culinary teacher, not a mathematician. Math is actually specifically my weak point. But I'm trying very hard to understand all sides, especially being pro-renewable energy. I kind of honestly was like, oh, maybe this isn't a bad thing. And then I started looking more and more into it, and I started to see a lot and more discourse. And it's just been really sad to move to a community that I very quickly, we went trick-or-treating on Halloween, and we heard this noise done, like Mission Impossible, and all of a sudden we turn around and there are like 12-year-olds dressed as minions carrying a boombox. Like, I love this town. I love everybody that I've met. They're so sweet, and it's so sad to see such a discourse because the quoted risk by Dennis Travis, I did send you that screenshot earlier where we had discussed that previously. The risk quoted by you is 0.58%. And when I had prompted you if that was an annual or a term risk, you didn't answer. And I'm assuming that if it was a term risk, you probably would have volunteered that information rather willingly because that
Some
would
of
have.
that data is
I'm
changing
sorry.
so fast.
I understand, but this was just a mere amount of weeks ago, and if you guys understand the data is changing so fast, I'm rather confused why you wouldn't be willing to put a moratorium like some people have requested to allow the technology to catch up if that's the case. But with that 0.58 quoted percent, that actually compounds over 10 years to be about a 1 in 18 chance. And I'll wrap it up here. I actually probably have a lot more to say, but once again, public speaking is not my forte. I get a little bit shaky, but 1 in 18 chance if this was a game show and they said, okay, at the end of 10 years, your town gets $5 million, but there's a 1 in 18 chance that a disaster will happen. I would never take that chance, not for my neighbor who I see with her daycare, not my children playing in the backyard, not the sweet little clerk at the grocery store, the 2 little girls that bag up my groceries every time I go that are sweet as honey. And it's so sad to see the community to come to this over something like this, I guess. And there's lots of risk and there's a lot more that I would like to say, but I would never bet those odds. And granted, it could be a very small risk. Maybe nothing could happen. Maybe it's just something little and it fizzles out. But I don't think any source or home of somewhere where a disaster has happened have ever thought that it would happen to them. And would never even risk. I would never risk that on my neighbors and my fellow Halstead residents' lives, because truly everybody I've interacted with so far has been wonderful. But I appreciate you for your time, and once again, sorry, public speaking is not my forte.
Thanks, Bree.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to address the council? All right, we will close the public forum, and I'd like to ask for approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, after reviewing and going through the consent agenda as submitted, I would make a motion to approve it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The consent agenda stands as approved. We have no unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business, and the first item is code enforcement options. You have something for us there, Ethan, and I believe we have a visitor.
Yeah, Kendall Pierce is here with Professional Code Compliance, just to present to you about his services, and then, yeah, we'll see where the conversation goes from there.
Well, welcome to the podium, Kendall.
How's it going? Sorry, I got a couple things here. There's only one copy, so if you guys don't mind passing them around. My name is Kendall Pierce. I work, I'm actually the owner for Professional Code Compliance. What we are is a third-party code enforcement company. We have currently right now roughly about 10 different towns spanning from Burns to Howard to Cedarvale to Clearwater. And our recent, probably should have passed this out at one time, I'm sorry. Our recent town that we acquired is Goddard. So we have been, just kind of a little background story. The way I got started was I was sitting in a position just like you guys. I was on my city council. Seemed like we contracted everything else out. Couldn't figure out a way to get, the proper needs from our current code enforcement officer, and that wasn't her fault. That was the fact that she wore 5 different hats. She was she was the chair of the planning and zoning board. She, did all the not all the inspections, but she wrote all the permits. She had several jobs that she did. So code enforcement tend to fall, I don't know, I'd say a little lower on her list. So I asked, the mayor, I was like, why aren't we contracting this out? And they told me to look into it, and lo and behold, there's no one doing it. Every single town like yours has an opportunity to make code enforcement a top priority. Unfortunately, it just doesn't happen that way, and obviously it's because everyone, there is a lot of turnover on city council, so everybody has, priorities, and it tends to fall a little by the wayside, which is why we started this company. Kind of our process is we go around and, we'll drive every road in town. And if we see a problem in the town, we'll put those on that green flyer right there. It'll have more or less a notice. It kind of gives you an idea of what the code enforcement or the violation is. It gives you time to alleviate the issue. We go take our pictures. One thing I pride myself on, though, is the communication. I'm not going to sit here and say, John Smith next door has one tire on next to his garage and we need to write him a violation, right? My idea of code enforcement is if I don't want to be your neighbor doesn't want to be your neighbor. And that's just the cold hard truth. So I go around and really I'm not trying to nitpick here. I'm trying to make sure that we can get the items that, when people do come into town, they're looking to purchase here in town, that there's, curb appeal and there's health and safety, because those are 2 issues that tend to come across the code enforcement desk more often than not. So what we do, again, we take the pictures, we go ahead and add them to our software. We go ahead and form the letters. It's pretty basic. The one thing that I would stress is that we're a third-party contractor, so there won't be, hey, he's picking on me. Oh, he's doing this. Like, well, maybe you feel that way, but I know nobody here in town. So I can't necessarily say that I'm picking on somebody or that you guys, my idea is I tell every city council that I have no desire to know who you guys have, current active violations with. I'll let you guys take that, and then I start new once everything's over, just because I don't want it to carry over and have an issue. Again, communication with the residents is very important to me. If somebody calls and says, hey, I can't get this done, X, Y, and Z, okay, that's fine. I'm more than willing to give the extension. The issue is whenever, you're down to 2, 3, 4 extensions down the line, and it tends to, nothing's getting done. So we give I give my cell phone out, I give my email out. I ask that the residents call me. If that's a hated message, or, you know, it's a nice message. It doesn't matter. It's the fact that we're establishing a line of communication with the residents, and we both know that, hey, this is what we're gonna do, and we're not going away. So that's kind of the process. Again, it's no different than, you know, kind of normal code enforcement. We're just taking it and contracting it out and making it a third-party option that, again, you guys don't have to sit there and take the beating of, oh, you're picking on me. And city clerk just gives them my phone number. I just want to share this with you guys real quick. I think I don't know, I'm maybe just bragging about myself, I don't know. This is from the community development manager in Goddard. It says, Kendall, I shared your company cam, which is the website we use. I shared your company cam at a glance with the city administrator and the mayor this afternoon, and we were thoroughly impressed with, with all your good work in the short order of 2 weeks. Good job, guys, and thank you. You may want to watch city council meeting tomorrow night, as you may be highlighted. Goddard has 7 housing developments. All 7 have HOAs. If you're getting a community developer to say, hey, good job, that means the HOAs aren't doing their job, and that I'm able to come in there and, you know, at least help guide the town to where I think, you know, it fits in your guys' code, so.
How well do you get along with that administrator over there in Goddard?
Craig? I don't mind him, why?
I camp with his parents, so
Okay,
let me
yeah.
know if you need anything
Yeah.
on him.
Oh, Craig, yeah. He's a good guy. It took, you know, it's kind of like, you know, with us, I've been talking to Ethan for, you know, a couple months here and there, and, you know, this isn't something that I assumed would be, hey, you know, let's get it done. Let's, you know, whenever I had a meeting with him, I didn't expect us to have a signed contract. You know, obviously it comes through you guys, but I want to be able to come in here and be able to answer any questions. If you guys had anything for me, I'm an open book. I'm going to work hard, like I said, and I'm going to do the job that needs to be done, what you guys are paying for, because, again, you're a small town and tax dollars go a long ways.
Question. I saw on one of those, on your flyer that you do structural deterioration. You look at that. Do you do any building and safety inspection? I didn't see that, and that's a whole other animal, but I just
Yeah.
didn't know if you had background in that.
Yeah, so we don't. No, that's just a quick answer. Everyone asked that one, or animal control. It's like, I don't have the insurance for animal control.
If you could consider animal control along with that, we might be able to work
Right.
something out.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think this is where the road we're heading. And like I said, in the short time we've, I kind of want to preface this. My business partner is also a a city lawyer for El Dorado, Andover, Benton, and Towanda. So he's had over 20 years' experience with this. And he helps whenever we get to that point and we have to, you know, go to court. He helps make sure that we have all the, I'm sure he'll be talking to you, Rob Lane. I don't know if you've heard of him. Yeah. I do. Yeah, so he'd be the one, you know, organizing, hey, or communicating if you had any questions, and I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. I just say, hey, Rob. So, yeah.
So you would be the primary employee then, or do you have a larger staff that helps you, considering there's some larger communities other than Halstead that you'd be?
Yeah, so right now I think in our, I would be the only one here in town, right? If there was ever a chance that I was sick or something, it would be something that I would have to discuss with most likely Ethan or whoever I'm reporting to, and say, hey, I can't catch it this week, I'll be there next week. So it's one of those things that we would have to push off just due to the fact that it's myself, my office manager, and then obviously Rob as a business partner. We have had opportunities to expand, but I don't think I'm there yet. I work, live in my truck, you know, pretty much. So I bounce around from community to community. And if I have to take time to answer some emails, you know, we're right there in the truck. So it's not anything that's too concerning. But yes, to your point, or to your question, I would be the only one here in town.
And then the services, sorry, I did read through, but you would come through town approximately how frequently would be our contract? Can we say that?
So it would be, I believe it was 30 hours, which
It was about 7.5 hours a week.
would equate to probably 2 or 3 times a month, I would imagine. So even with the 30 hours, I'm a person of routine, and I need to have the structure. So if you guys are my Tuesday, you're my Tuesday. You know what I mean? So it's not gonna change. And if I go over those 30 hours, well, shame on me for, talking, for us getting it negotiated down to 30 hours, right? That's on me, and
Right.
so be it. You guys aren't gonna get charged more for me going over, especially when I do quarterly updates with city council, so I'll come in here every quarter. If we have to go to trial, then I'll be there as a witness of, hey, here's what we've taken pictures of, here's everything we need. So again, those additional hours, they're on me, so.
So how long do you think it would take you to drive through a town of Halstead size?
Halstead, I think I had it roughly at about, I would say like 5 to 7 hours, depending on where we're at. And that's just, that's again, stopping, making sure that we have the right address, all the facts in the book while I'm putting the information in. And then on top of that, we also have, obviously my office administrator hours of, mailing out the letters and getting all the reports over to you guys, updating any information in our system, so. I'm gonna be honest, I feel like 30 hours is probably gonna be pretty generous on your guys' side. We're currently now given, Goddard's a little bit bigger, but we have them at right around, I wanna say 90, I think, so, I believe that's right, but again, I'm more than willing to, show you guys what we can do. That's pretty much what it is right now, it's just, and we have a 4-month opt-out
yeah.
window. So if you guys in 4 months don't like my services or, don't wanna move on with the contract with a 30-day written notice, there's an opt-out window, so.
Well, are our codes here in Halstead the same as codes across? I mean, are all city
They're-
codes the same? Is
No, they're
that-
not all the same, no, but there are fine tweaks, to different codes, grass length,
Right.
duration
I
of
mean, you're not out there with
abatement.
a ruler, like.
No, once it gets to that point and you guys wonder.
I mean, come
pretty
on,
obvious.
No,
we're
it's-
Halstead.
Well, here's the problem is, Mr. Jantz wants to, take this, or we have to take this to court, and he's like, well, you didn't take any pictures of it being 8 inches. How am I supposed to have something, so yeah, sometimes if you guys do end up abating a property due to tall grass, there will be a picture with a yardstick. Now, every time, no, because usually it takes once or twice to say, hey, can you mow your yard? And they just need a kick in the butt. Like, you'd be so surprised how many times that's just the case. So, boring people.
Well, I've reached out to some citizens and I've talked with them. Citizens I know have been visited by our police officers and I asked the question, would you rather have seen a police officer come knock on your door and say, hey, you've got to get this cleaned up? Or would you rather have seen somebody in cargo shorts and a t-shirt? That's what they want to see. They want to see a police officer because they have pallets in the backyard. And that was consistent. People, they just get real nervous when they see a police officer.
It's funny you say that. I just went to a seminar out in Dodge City for the Kansas Association of Code Enforcement. And that was the one thing they say. So like for Miami-Dade County, those code enforcement officers, belts, vests, versus, and he was trying to sit here and relate to us. I'm like, there's no way I'm wearing a bulletproof vest. If I wear a gun on someone here in Kansas and step on their property, it's just gonna look like I'm an instant threat to them. Yeah. Versus, this is my normal attire. I usually have something, my truck, we have magnets that say city code enforcement on them, so there's no denying what I'm doing. And again, when a resident wants to, talk to me, I'm just a straight shooter. I'll tell you, hey, you gotta clean your yard up. sorry, like this is, obviously this pile of metal here that any kid could climb over, right, would be an issue, so.
I don't have any questions, but I do, having done many a fire inspection and fire code stuff, it is extremely time consuming and can be. So the need for that kind of service is way more than you think it is. I know from doing just what I've done, school inspections and things of that nature over the years. There's a lot of hours invested in that thing, so, and nobody likes to have somebody come on their place and say, hey, maybe you ought to cut your grass, but you know, your neighbor would probably appreciate it. That's what I've always said, I would, if
Right.
I was next to someone that didn't, so, I think it's pretty important that we look into it.
And just give you guys a brief example, there's dandelions this year like crazy. We've been getting rained out like crazy. Every note or every letter that I've been sending out or flyer that I've been sending out, I've made it a point to call me. Like, let's talk about this. This is what I have to do. But obviously I know that the grass is too wet to cut in certain situations, you know, especially when it's, you know, mid-calf, right? So I always make it a point to say, call me, we'll talk about an extension, and we'll get it taken care of. I mean, it's that simple, and they residents appreciate that. They appreciate the fact that there's someone there to talk to, and it's not, again, you're not just sitting there pointing their finger, telling them to clean up their yard or else. Like, that's not
The
how.
primary of what you do is people telling them to cut their grass. I mean, is that like?
What's that?
In a percentage of the citations that you, I mean, is a
Town from
good
town.
percentage of it telling people that your grass is too tall, or?
It jumps from town to town. No, I would say that probably at this time of the year, yes. Like right off the bat, when the first mow needs to happen, probably. But other than, I mean, besides that, there's a lot of junk, just piles of junk or debris that needs to be picked up in the yard. And so I think those probably are the two biggest. And then motor vehicles. You guys, didn't see that you had a huge issue with it, but Howard, Kansas has a bunch of junk vehicles, right? So it's just a matter of like what you see in the cities and then how you want to face it.
Well, I'll say that I was borderline. Could have gone either way on this, but after talking with some citizens, knowing that it would relieve some tension with them, but also what really got me is that we are able to opt out of this in a quarter if we need to.
Yeah.
So we could try you out for 3 months,
Yeah.
give you that 30-day notice, and we could be done. So I think it's
Worth trying.
I think it's a good experiment, and I think it gives us an opportunity. It's like this doesn't fit, so let's keep moving.
Right.
So
And all my information, all the information that I have collected in that I would be collecting in those 3 months, I mean, it's yours, right? It's everything that could be easily transferable to the next code enforcement officer or however you want to pursue that and to continue with it as well, so.
Well, I like the idea of removing our police department out of our code enforcement. I do like that idea. And our next item on our agenda is to set a work session date, so maybe the council we can talk about this a little more at that work session and get back to you.
Yep, that works for me.
Council, do you have any other questions for Kendall tonight?
No, I mean, I appreciate your time. I think my, like, probably biggest, has always just been, like, is the need high enough? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
do we really have a high enough need to say that we need to bring in additional support? And so that's where I'm at. So I guess that's something I'll voice at the work session.
Yeah, I mean, it's a need in every community, and obviously I'm a little biased.
I don't know.
right?
I have a hard
But-
time if like a majority is that people don't cut their grass, then I'm like,
Right.
cut your grass, you know, like why are we paying somebody to come in when you're a citizen that cut your grass, you know? And if you don't, I mean, I just have if we had a bunch of junk or a bunch of whatever, like you were saying, but I'm like,
If you live next to a border, would
90%
you be
of-
preaching that way though? Or were you saying it that way?
would I be saying what?
Like, it's just cut your grass, you know, I just kind of assume that maybe the situation that you're at right now is not that you have neighbors that are, you know, have junk and piled up in their backyard and there's a fence and no one sees it, but you can still smell it and rodents are affecting you. You know what I mean? Like there's
I mean, yeah, I don't know what you mean because I can't, like, I don't know.
He doesn't live in a neighborhood like
Yeah,
that.
I'm like, I really
Exactly,
don't.
yeah, and
And
so
I've
there's
never
certain-
heard of anybody like in the community sharing that that's
happens.
something,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean.
More
out
than
there.
you think.
So,
Mhm.
I mean, I guess I wish that then they would report that or whatever. So then, you know, because none of that in regards to has been on the reports of things that we've had issues with. So according to the data that was gathered, like that's not a high is what I guess I was saying. I'm not saying
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not a
Yeah,
problem,
yeah.
but the data that was presented to me is like weeds and yard stuff, you
Yeah.
know, not hoarding and
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, it's out there. Yeah.
They're out there.
It's out there.
We've pursued a few of those cases already.
Yeah, and I would say that's one of the value adds of at least third party over the current model we utilize with the PD is, and you saw if you went through things like when you're getting more into the dilapidated, deteriorating structures, but not to the point, any residential structure, I mean, that is completely out of the PD's bailiwick. And I mean, Chief and I had conversations about that. They are very whether grass is 12 inches or not is kind of a yes, no. When it gets into, is someone siding on their house bad enough that, you know, this needs to be followed via, or pursued more aggressively via code, they're very uncomfortable with making that delineation because that gets into more building and a matter of expertise. And so having a party that's gone through code enforcement school can, you know, make that reasonable judgment is definitely value add on those cases. And it kind of gets into junk too of, as we've discussed in work sessions and stuff, when we talked about this, of there is that fine line between, you know, no one wants the city to operate like an HOA, but at the same time, you know, every community has these struggles too of, is that implement in your yard really yard art or is it junk? Is it, and,
And then your success rate in getting those things turned around, you feel like is fairly high?
Yeah, we've had, I can't tell.
Because
you.
that's the other, like,
I
if
hate-
somebody's got a bunch of stuff in their backyard and that's the way they've been living their life for however long, like.
Yeah. No, we've had some, and I can show, like, whenever, you know, I can take down your information, and I can show you, like, just actual hoarding situations that went from that to, you know, at least it may be some chaos, but it's controlled chaos, right? Or properties in Cedarvale and Howard that are completely demolished because you call the resident and say, or the owner and say, hey, what's the plans with this property? I just need to tear it down. Okay, and then next thing you know, now I'm asking them to clean up a pile of rubble, right? Like, there's been so many, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't see success, I'll be honest with you. I'm not here to collect a paycheck from you guys. I'm here to make sure that the properties, you know, stay within your guys' code and that this doesn't become an issue where, if you look at Howard 10 years ago on Google Maps versus what it was before I started, you guys, your jaw would drop. It's just, it doesn't take long for a town to deteriorate.
Well, I appreciate all of the information you provided and for answering questions. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you, sir.
in tonight.
Yep, sounds good. Yeah, just let me know.
We could make a motion on it if we wanted to. I mean, you guys, we could make a motion on it if we wanted to.
If we wanted to, we could. Charlie Robinson texted me earlier, because I'm in favor of it.
I mean, I'm fine with it. I think I'm the only opposition. And I feel like he justified some of my concerns.
Talk about it in the work
Yeah,
session.
we can do a work section.
Speaking of, next item on the agenda, we need to establish a work session. I would have,
Thanks, sir.
thanks,
Thank you.
Kendall.
Ms. Kendall.
This is going to be primarily budget stuff, right?
Yeah, we'll revisit budget priorities, and then capital projects for sure, but
Okay.
we can always add whatever you all would like to throw on that agenda as
Well,
well.
let's have a final conversation about this code enforcement at that. And then when would you like to do that, Ethan, roughly?
I asked for a Wednesday, because I'm teaching on Tuesdays and Thursdays for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
Can we avoid the 7th? I'll be out of town.
I said mid to late May, so I
Okay.
would say the week of May 12th or the 19th, or even the week of Memorial Day.
May 14th?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Shauna?
I think that works.
US.
And what time do we want to do it?
6?
Everybody good with 6?
It works out.
Maybe
Well,
just,
great. Now somebody formalize that by putting it in a motion and we'll make it.
Mayor, I'd make a motion to have our next scheduled work session on May 6th at 6 in the evening.
May 14th.
Oh, I'm sorry, May 14th, yes, at 6 in the evening.
It's gonna require a second, council.
Second.
second.
Got a motion and a second to schedule the next work session for May 14th at 6 PM. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. We do have a work session. We're gonna move our executive session to the end of the meeting, so now we'll get into the report section. And I'm just gonna start off with these 3 proclamations Julie just handed me. Did you give them to me in order, Julie? No, you didn't. Okay, I got them in order now. So the first one is an Arbor Day proclamation. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed through the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas Halstead has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting ways. And now therefore, I, Dennis Travis, Mayor of the City of Halstead, do hereby proclaim April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the City of Halstead. And I urge all citizens to support efforts to care for our trees and woodlands and to support our city's community forestry program. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. Dated this day, 28th day of April, 2025. The only bad time to be a Tree City USA is when a derecho comes. That one's still pretty fresh in everybody's mind. The next proclamation is for Public Service Recognition Week. Whereas Americans are served every single day by public servants at the federal, state, county, and city levels, and these unsung heroes do the work that keeps our nation working. Whereas public employees take not only jobs, but oaths. Whereas many public servants, including military personnel, police officers, firefighters, border patrol officers, embassy employees, healthcare professionals, and others, risk their lives each day in service to the people of the United States and around the world. And whereas public servants include teachers, doctors, and scientists, train conductors and astronauts, nurses and safety inspectors, laborers, computer technicians, and social workers, and countless other occupations. Day in and day out, they provide the diverse services demanded by the American people of their government with efficiency and integrity. And whereas without these public servants at every level, continuity would be impossible in a democracy that regularly changes its leaders and elected officials. Whereas the City of Halstead wishes to recognize our dedicated local government staff who provide invaluable service and support to Halstead residents. Now therefore, I, Dennis Travis, Mayor of the City of Halstead, do hereby announce and proclaim to all citizens and set seal hereto that May 4th through the 10th, 2025 is Public Service Recognition Week, and encourage all citizens to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of government employees at all levels, federal, state, county, and city. Signed this 28th day of April, 2025. And along with that, you council members that are up for reelection, that should serve as a reminder to go get registered. And I took care of mine today, so you might be stuck with me again. Well, this one's for Denise. This is a Happy Nurses Week proclamation. Whereas registered nurses in the United States constitute our nation's largest healthcare profession, and whereas the depth and breadth of the registered nursing profession meets the different and emerging healthcare needs of the American population in a wide range of settings, including the front line of the pandemic, and whereas professional nursing is an indispensable component of the safety and quality of care of hospitalized and non-hospitalized patients, and whereas more qualified registered nurses are needed in the future to meet increasingly complex needs of healthcare consumers in this community, and whereas along with the American Nurses Association has declared May 6th through the 12th as Nurses Week with the theme, The Power of Nurses. With appreciation for nurses, unparalleled impact in their contributions to healthcare, and an open invitation to thank a nurse for enriching our lives and in the world we live in, therefore it be, you put it in there twice. Now, therefore, I, Dennis Travis, Mayor of the City of Halstead, ask that all residents of Halstead, Kansas, join me in honoring the registered nurses who care for all of us, and be it further resolved that the residents celebrate registered nurses' accomplishments and efforts to improve our healthcare system and show our appreciation for the nation's registered nurses, not just during this week, but at every opportunity throughout the year. Signed this 28th day of April, 2025. And my daughter's also a nurse, so that was for her too.
There you go.
Well, that concludes my proclamations. We'll move on to governing body comments tonight. I will start, since it's nurses,
Well, there you
we'll
go.
start with Denise tonight.
I don't have anything other than I hope everybody had a happy Easter and looking forward to some better weather.
Shauna. George.
I do have something. A citizen reached out to me about a week and a half ago and had a question regarding elected officials being able to have an opinion. I reached out to the Kansas League of Municipalities legal team, and I presented what our issue was here, give him a real good idea. And so he wrote a generic response, and I'm going to read this, and then I'd like to also state to this, let citizens know that I spoke with Ethan, and he would also make this available to any citizen who might want it. It says, George, per our conversation from earlier today, elected officials are allowed to have personal opinions and are allowed to express those personal opinions. Ways in which public officials may express those opinions would be through posts on their personal social media pages or through signage on their personal property, as long as there are no purporting to speak on behalf of the city and do not have actual authority to speak on behalf of the city, they may express their own opinions. Please let me know if you have any additional questions. So that was from the Kansas League legal team and
League of Municipalities.
Kansas League of Municipalities, I'm sorry, yes. And if any citizens want a copy of this, I did forward this to Ethan and he could make it available to you. That's all I have.
Your turn, Jim.
All right. I don't really have a whole lot. I always, when people come into meetings and talking to public forum, whether we're eye to eye or whether we're not eye to eye or whether we're talking the same language sometime and not talking the same language, I still want to say I appreciate that. Because if you don't get any feedback of anything, then, you know, we can hear somebody ask us a question, and if somebody really knows me, they'll send me a message, or they'll find me on the street, or whatever. That's not uncommon, especially for me, I guess, just because, and I do a lot of walking, so I have a lot of conversations with people just from walking down the street, but I don't want to brush away anything, because even the comments here tonight is somebody's opinion, and I appreciate that fact. Just like I want them to appreciate our due diligence in what we're trying to do, you know? We all have our opinions, and we all have what we think is right and what is wrong, and sometimes we don't even know what right or wrong yet, you know, unless we have a pretty good, clear picture of that. And I just want to reinforce that there's nothing hidden, at least in my book or anybody that I know of, that I just want to see it. You know, I can't make any kind of statements on stuff and things like that if I don't even know what I'm making a statement on. You know, and I want to just to go ahead and reinforce that. That's it.
Appreciate that, Jim. Ethan, we'll move on to you for your city manager's report.
Thank you. Just to start off, this Saturday, May 3rd, from 9 to noon is the city's annual rabies clinic. Vaccinations are $8, being done by Maple Ridge again, and you can also register your cat or dog with the city at that time as well. We are down to 5 temporary construction easements that still need signed to move forward with our Safe Routes to School construction grant. So we are working diligently to try and get those remaining 5 properties to get those easements in place. Julie did file a continuing disclosure notice, which will be in your next packet in the consent agenda, but she did file a continuing disclosure notice for the city issuance of that wastewater treatment plant loan, which is a requirement for some of our existing bond debt. I just want to point out, we did have a land bank meeting earlier this evening, and the land bank has voted to accept 217 Main Street. So we will get that started once we get that contract signed to take, for the land bank to take possession of the former loose brick. Julie and staff met with FEMA today. We are hopefully finishing up our FEMA reporting and all the schedules that we have to submit in order to have our public assistance claim on the May 19th, the May derecho from last year. It was included in your packet, but I just want to call out the efforts of staff. We did receive a $1,000 check from the Kansas County Association Multi-Line Pool, which is our property and liability insurer, and that check was awarded to us for our efforts in risk management, and that we have a low modifier claim, so we're not putting a lot of claims there. So again, just I want to thank staff for their efforts in keeping our claims down and being responsible with city property. Kansas Department of Commerce came last Wednesday morning and toured Ruby's and Daphne May Cafe, and that was done as part of Community Development Week, so the Assistant Secretary for Commerce was here, and I just want to thank Tessa Windling for allowing Commerce to come and for being such a gracious host, and it was very, and I want to thank Jim for showing up that morning bright and early to also meet with Commerce. They had about 8 reps there from the department, and they're just going around touring successful grants and where we've had public and private cooperation, and it still just amazes me to see what Tessa's done with that building and where it started when the city originally got possession of it in the land bank to where it is now. So really great to showcase that. A lot of positive comments about the town from all those visitors to our community, so it was just a great event. And then we are still working on moving our streaming over to YouTube. Had some efforts, we're gonna have to reach out to our managed IT to facilitate that change, but we are still working on that in light of Facebook changing its video storage policy. We also believe it'll give us a little more control and be a little bit better platform than Facebook Live. So those are what we are working on and things that are going on right now.
Anybody have any questions of Ethan?
I did have one. I was just wondering what the North Street project is,
Yeah,
where we're at on that.
we're between the 60 and 80% mark as far as the preliminary engineering. It probably comes as a surprise to no one that BNSF and working with BNSF is kind of one of the holdups now to get some final questions answered, but we are planning to hopefully get meetings scheduled with the residents and the businesses to go over the preliminary plans and, yeah, hopefully get that in motion as soon as we can.
Do we have a plat drawing of that yet?
We don't have the final, I mean, we're only a 60% mark, so you don't have like, they're still waiting on some information and some assurances from BNSF before they draw some of that that's by the railroad track,
I understand that.
so.
No other questions for Ethan?
A question for this guy out here, how come he has a Huntington Beach t-shirt on? Are you from out that way? No. Oh, just, okay. I thought maybe we were neighbors at one time.
A friend of his went there and all he got was that
The
crappy
t-shirt.
t-shirt. Okay, we're ready for our executive session now, so we'll wait for Jimmy to make that motion.
All right. Mr. Mayor, I move that the Halstead City Council recess into executive session to discuss potential litigation, to consult with the attorney on matters that would deem privilege in the attorney-client relationship exemption, KSA 75-4319B3, to include the city manager, the city attorney, and would reconvene at 8:40.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to enter into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We'll move to the back room, council.
Hey, we got something else to say.
Back from our executive session, is there any action to be taken as a result of? Not hearing from the council, this does conclude our agenda, and I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Before we do that, we failed during the city members' comments to, huge shout out to the Halstead High School Music Department. They rocked it at state, bringing home mostly ones. Yeah. So congratulations to every single one of our students, whether they were vocal, mixed groups, solos, band instruments. They did a fantastic job. So Claire, fantastic job, and congratulations to the kids.
Absolutely. Keep up the great work. And it's going to be even more of a challenge right now because they are demoing their auditoriums. So,
Yes.
head out to the choir concerts coming up in the next couple of weeks too.
Yep, it'll be good.
I want to piggyback on that a little bit because, I had to deliver this proclamation for the girls' volleyball team. I'll soon be doing another one at the school for the basketball team, and I understand that's mostly the same girls that are part of that team.
Yep.
And it looks like they are out there stomping it in softball right now.
Softball,
So,
go.
man, if they can really put it together with their softball
yeah.
team this year, that's just pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah, and I believe we're hosting the softball regionals. So if you're out and about during that, definitely head out and check that out.
Be a tough regional.
Yeah, a couple of the top teams in the state in 3A. So
My girls were on that inaugural team, and so we raised a lot of money to have a successful softball program in Halstead. I am so glad we put that time and effort into doing it.
100%. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, good deal. I'm still waiting for that motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah, so move. Let's adjourn. Let's go home.
Go, George.
We have a motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, council.